Hi, good evening, guys. This is Miss Johnson. I'm here with a new read aloud that I'll be reading each night at 7 o'clock. This book is titled Bridge to Terabithia, and it's by Catherine Patterson and illustrated by Donna Diamond. Some of you guys might have heard of this book before. It is such a great book that it was turned into a movie. You might have even seen the movie. But as we all know, the book is always so much better than the movie. We're going to be reading the foreword, which is the part of the book at the beginning. Usually it tells you a little bit about the book. Sometimes it can be written by someone other than the author. So I'm going to turn the page and we see the dedication, and the dedication is who the author dedicated this book to, and it's usually a family member or a close friend. And it says, I wrote this book for my son, David Lord Patterson, but after he read it, he asked me to put Lisa's name on this page as well, and so I do. For David Patterson and Lisa Hill. Banzai. And the foreword is next. And this foreword is written by Kate D. Camillo. And if that name sounds familiar, that's because she wrote the book Because of Winn-Dixie, which is a wonderful book. But she wrote this about Bridge to Terabithia. So I'm going to read this. I read Bridge to Terabithia for the first time when I was 30 years old. I was working at a book distributor in Minneapolis called The Bookman. The Bookman was housed in a huge old warehouse. I worked on the third floor of the warehouse, filling the orders for children's books. The Bookman's floors were concrete. The shelves were metal, and there were windows everywhere. In the afternoons, the warehouse floor would fill up with great slabs of light, and it was very much like being in a dusty, book-filled cathedral. I read Bridge to Terabithia standing in one of those great squares of light, and the story for me is forever associated with light. There is a point in the book when Jess, the main character, helps his friend Leslie and her father paint a room in Leslie's house. They painted the living room gold. Leslie and Jess had wanted blue, but Bill held out for gold, which turned out to be so beautiful that they were glad they had given in. The sun would slant in from the west in the late afternoon until the room was brimful of light. Bridge to Terabithia is like that room, golden, brimful of light. Something terrible happens in these pages. Something that we almost can't bear, but we bear it. And we bear it because Catherine Patterson loves these characters so much, sees them so clearly, that it makes us her readers feel loved and seen too. We feel as if we are in a golden room, a square of light. We feel held. We feel as if someone is telling us the truth. I recommended Bridge to Terabithia to my best friend's son, Luke Bailey, when he was 9 years old. This was 16 years ago. Luke finished the book and came out of his room and went into the kitchen and stood in front of his mother. He was sobbing. The front of his shirt was wet. He said, I will never, ever forgive Aunt Kate. Luke is grown up now. He is a reader, a history teacher, a writer. Do you remember reading Bridge to Terabithia? I asked him recently in a text. He said that to think of the book now, all these years later, is emotionally rending. He said that he has this vague memory of blaming me. And then he told me about a devastating loss one of his students was enduring, and that he was able to imagine his way into that student's loss by remembering the feelings he had reading Bridge to Terabithia. This is what literature does for us, I suppose, said Luke. It is what literature does for us. Bridge to Terabithia takes us by the hand and leads us into a room that we have never entered before. After we read this story, after we read this story, we cannot unknow what we now know. We are devastated, emotionally rent, but still we feel held, loved, seen. Someone trusted us enough to tell us the truth, and because of that, the room is golden, brimful of light. Kate D. Camillo.